obviously conspiracies exist. The question is which ones are real and which ones are not, right?
Well, thank you, Ian, for doing this. A little backstory. It's kind of interesting as you're hanging out here in Austin.
Yeah, dog.
I'm at a party. You happen to be at that party, and I recognize you from all of the GameStop, AMC, TikTok videos that were floating around. And I always thought this. I always thought that guy has a good head of hair.
It's what got me where I'm at.
I've had to ask you if you could come over, we can talk about a lot of different things. And obviously, you also said, funny enough, you needed a haircut.
Yeah. I had just been thinking about it like the day before.
So
it's getting way out of control.
So this is very serendipitous then.
Yeah.
How are you liking
everything in Austin has been very serendipitous. Like that was the first gathering I had been out to.
Yeah.
That was the first, like I had just gotten to town. And I mean, I've been meeting great people after great people, connections after just cool things have been coming together. And this is a great example of that. Of like, I need a haircut. Oh, you run a haircutting podcast? That's unreal. Let's go.
You know, the thing is I love getting to know people. And I like to get to know people who are particularly in things that I don't know anything about, right? Like I would love to have medical people and neuroscientists and quantum physicists. Like I love this because I've had people like that in my chair and I've learned so much from them. But the thing that I wanted to like really get to know with bringing you on is really like, how did you arrive at this place of like what it is that you do? Because I'm gathering right now very quickly that somebody is following this podcast. They have no idea who Ian Carroll is, but they're going to get to know who Ian Carroll person is. Not so much the avatar you present through social media. But first things first, what are we doing with your hair?
Mostly you're doing whatever you want with it, because every time I sit down in a haircutter's chair for my whole life, I've always thought of it as like, you're an artist and you have a canvas and I'm an artist. And I know that I hate people messing with my art form and telling me how to do my art.
Yeah.
So I'm not very attached to what the end result is here. You're going to make something awesome. But we've been working on this kind of like, initially I asked for a mullet in Boise, and I asked an 18-year-old who had just graduated from hair school for a mullet.
Yeah.
And that was when I had hair longer than yours, all the way down my back, out of control. And I was expecting, so I told her as a joke, like for the election, I want a mullet in Idaho.
Okay.
I was expecting like a mullet. And instead she gave me like the most Hollywood short backed, like trim proper thing I've ever seen. And it was a great haircut. She gave me a great haircut. She kind of saved me from myself, but we're sort of letting the mullet become a little more of a joke now while we're keeping the front a little fun. But the last one I got was in Arizona, and the dude gave me a great cut that grew out in a really not great way. Like it just, these layers here are such that the hairs here can get are longer than these. And so they can come in a weird way where they sit weird in my eyes. Yeah. This is just getting to be like this swoop is just this giant mop now. He missed the part a little bit where my hair naturally parts. So these hairs here are constantly wanting to fall like this. Okay. And so I think what we're going for is something that's like a mullet hawk that is mostly just about having fun, but is also just like an easy business look in the front with an easy little, like I want this to be quite a bit shorter so it can be way more under control. In general, what I do, like my hair care routine is zero. I almost never use shampoo or conditioner. Yeah. I get it wet and I put a hat on. And when I put it under a hat, as it dries, it falls out like that.
Okay.
Every time.
Awesome. You're not the first person I know who doesn't really rely on shampoo or conditioner. Yeah. It's one of my clients, he said, what made him not want to start washing his hair, or if he did, he would do it very infrequently.
Infrequently. And I started getting family-owned product, like founder and family-owned brand products and stuff. And I worked with a few early on, and now I just kind of still working with what was sent to me. Yeah. But,
he said that
low key.
He goes, have you ever noticed that all the people who are, I'm going to use the correct term, unhoused, all have a full head of hair? Once he said that, I remember I was driving through downtown LA like not too long after that, and I noticed like all the unhoused all had a lot of hair. And I was like, I don't know how accurate that is. Yeah. But it was just a really interesting observation.
It's funny meme either way.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So I get it. That's fine. So let me just kind of repeat back what I heard. Mm-hmm. You want something that if you need to clean it up, it's very easy to clean up, but you also want something that's fun.
Yeah.
So mullet hawk being more widened through here, the mullet back and through here, shorter through the sides. Yeah. And then what are we doing with your little Superman swoop up here? Do you want this to be kind of like off your face like that after it dries with the towel? I mean, that's the hat, or are you okay with some pieces just kind of falling down?
I want it to be much shorter than it is, so that because it will inevitably fall down, especially when it is because cleaner and not salted from sweat.
Yeah, because all of this right here is all
exactly
the cowlick here, and here.
Yeah. And so it'll naturally kind of swoop in like this once it's falling. And I want it to be falling in my forehead and not down into my eyes. I'm a runner. So I want to be able to not have to wear a hat when I'm on a run.
Got it.
Because now I have to wear a hat.
Yes.
I think that a lot of the hairdressers that have done my hair since I've been in this look have thought that I'm really attached to this like thing here. Yeah. And I'm not. I don't like, maybe it's the right move for the hair. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Okay. I do like this swoop. It's often fun because it often will have like a cool swoop here with like one or two strands coming like this, which is like a cool like movie look that just kind of naturally happens when it falls that way. But I'm not attached to any specific thing other than like, to me, the utility is simply that it's not in my hair, not in my face. Okay. And I actually am finding that I like the mullet because I don't have to have this fade. Like dude's fades are naturally like your neckline just looks like stupid and you have to get it cut back up every time because it's starting to grow down your neck.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun actually having a mullet. Keeps me from having to do that upkeep.
Keeps your neck warm in the winter.
Yep. And so I'm totally up for you kind of just taking a stock of what is here.
Yeah.
And making choices about how it will fall best, like how this part works and what is best to do with this chunk here.
Yeah.
So I think that's the part that has given most hairdressers trouble of sort of figuring out how to make this part blend with the concept.
Yeah. And do you use any styling product?
I never have in my life until I bought my first suit and went to my first like really important formal event for this job. And so now I do have some kind of like just some low key.
What type of product is it? We don't need to get into the specifics of the brand. Like, is it a pomade or a cream?
It's like a pomade, I think. Okay. Yeah. I've not ever gone for like the hard hold, like stiff, like Latino kind of like. But
I always think of Wall Street.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I've got a few that just sort of give it a little bit of hold up, just to kind of keep this swoop in place.
Yeah.
And I don't need it when it's a fresh cut and it's shorter because it'll just always fall right. It's once it gets longer like this that if I were to go on like to an event and hope like expect this to stay here, it'll inevitably wind up like doing Lord knows what.
Yeah.
Which is still, great hair, but
all of this, like I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a little out of control.
So I'm going to tell you what I believe the hairdresser before me was thinking.
Yeah.
Is because your cowlick is right here. If you take this too short, it could potentially stand.
It does actually. When it's not, so it's shampooed today. Yeah. And when it's not shampooed, often this piece right here is doing this.
Yes, sticking out.
Yeah.
So this is where I want to ask a few more questions about if you don't want the hair to be in your face when you're running. We could take this in many different directions. Mm-hmm. So one is how prominent do you want somebody to go like, oh yeah, he has a mullet haircut. Like I could go through and take the sides, not down to like the skin, but take it pretty short, nice and clean, very classic right in through here. And I could box that in right through here, right? Mm-hmm. But we can make this part look very classic. Mm-hmm. But the shorter I make this, the more likely is that this cowlick is going to explode. It's going to blossom. Mm-hmm. With that means that this top area, I would want to cut it so it has a little bit more texture, so it would look a little bit more like messier. So you could like get it when your towel's dry. You could put whatever that stuff is, and you move it in, and then it just looks kind of like fun and wild, intentionally, versus trying to control a piece of the hair that it doesn't want to go in that direction.
I've always been a sucker for the wild look, even though my hair is so fine and thick naturally that it inherently becomes this kind of very like combed, like smooth look. I've always wished I had like that. I mean, like I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up on like 90s boy bands. So growing up, I always like wanted that NSYNC like hair, which I know I don't have.
You could do it.
But yeah, in general, like what I do, like between ultra running and weightlifting and like being just a dirty hippie kind of in my nature, it's like I'm inherently going to have dirtier, sweatier, messier hair.
And that gives you separation.
Exactly. And I like that layered look. And so I think that a lot of hairdressers, I'm coming in with like freshly washed hair and they're seeing this and they're thinking, he wants a business look. And it's like, no, not really, actually. Like it looks good this way, but I'm actually more inclined towards the messier kind of layered sort of looks anyways.
Yeah. So you probably like, if you had to do a short haircut, you'd probably be like, you would rather have like the short, messy haircut of like Brad Pitt and like Fight Club.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a cool haircut.
It's a cool haircut.
It's still one of my favorite. It's the coolest messy haircut of all time.
Yeah. And my messy haircut somehow winds up still with this like sick swoop in the front, which is like pretty dope. So,
well, you should just go with Superman with that.
What do you mean?
Like, because Superman has the yeah, you should do. I mean, you're tall enough to look like a superhero.
Yeah, my hair would totally do it.
7'3"?
No, I'm like 6'6".
Okay, when you're not 6'6", everyone feels 7'3".
When I meet people that are my height and we're looking eye to eye, we both think that the other person is taller because we never are looking eye to eye. So we think we're looking up.
My friend Ryan is 6'6", and he gets weirded out when there's anybody taller than him.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
And at my bachelor party, we were in downtown LA and we got into the elevator because we were going to some bar thing for my bachelor party. And Glenn Big Baby Davis was in the elevator and he's 6'9", 6'10". And my friend was like freaked out, like, why? Because we just met like basketball. He's like, no, I get weird when people are taller than me. And I'm like, really?
I think it's awesome.
I think it's the strangest thing.
I think it's amazing.
when I shook his hand, Glenn Davis, okay, his palm, I'm not even kidding here, was the size of my whole hand. And I was like, oh my God, this is a big fucking dude. Yeah. And he was actually really cool. He was fucking dope, dude.
You know, last time I met a 6'9" person, I was like, dude, can we get a photo? And can I like wrap my hand around your waist and like
not like one of these things.
Great. No, it was great, dude.
Yeah. The tallest person I've ever met, I was 17. It was at the San Diego Comic-Con and it was The Undertaker. And he had like 4 bodyguards around him. And all I could think is like, he doesn't need these.
Yeah, why
does he have these guys? He lives here in Austin.
A lot of people live here in Austin.
Every week I find somebody new lives here. Okay, so let's do this. If you're down, let's try and go for like a cool. I'm gonna pull a page out of a late 90s British hairdressing book. And what they did is they had this cool little mullet. It was more conservative of a mullet than what you have, but we don't have to play by those rules. Mm-hmm. The thing that I liked is they kept this really nice and clean, and then they kind of did like almost like a faux hawk in the front.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this was of the time when the faux hawk was like mainstream.
Yeah.
This was like 98, 99, before it was cool. Yeah. Yeah. I've always said anytime the people who do the investment banking and the wealth management, like those young kids that are in suits, when in Newport Beach, that office was called PIMCO. PIMCO was right next to the salon. Yeah. So when the PIMCO guys came in wanting the stuff that we were into, we knew it was over. That's how we just knew the trend was done. New trend. Like they're talking about faux hawks and they're getting more ridiculous and more stupid looking. We're like, we're not doing any of this shit. Yeah. So what I'm thinking about is before that, which is like almost early 2000, late 90s UK footballer. Mm-hmm. David Beckham had some of this stuff where it was kind of messy. He kind of could do a faux hawk. He can make it slick back and clean, but he had this back here. Yeah. Are you cool with something like
100%, that? Man. Awesome. As long as you're having fun doing it and you think you're proud of your art, I'll be stoked.
I like to think I like to do whatever I'm doing with pride, which is why I'd rather have a very long conversation and make sure, because it may not be something I love, but if I can do it well for you and it makes you happy, then I did my job correctly. You know, you're an artist too. So it's like somebody said, sometimes you get to do whatever you want. And other days you have to paint the king the way they want to be painted. Yeah. And I thought that was a really great analogy as what we're doing as hairdressers, because it is an art form. It was a temporary art. It's like Cristo, right? It's like installation. It's the last 6 weeks and it changes and evolves. But at the same time, somebody's coming in wanting to look their best. So what does that mean to you? Not to me. Like, what does that mean to you? Because I could give you this cool haircut, but if you're not going to use product, you're not going to use a blower dryer, you're not going to do all this shit, then I just set you up for failure.
The reason why I like what you've suggested is because it gives me the option to use product and stuff like that, and to turn it into a couple different vibes. Yeah, it could be very slick vibe, or it could also be a very messy vibe. Yeah, but it also sounds like it's going to look great and feel great when it's just like my average casual day with no attention.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking about is actually like this part will be like right around. Let me see. I'm thinking about somewhere around here, like up. Right?
Yep.
And a random thing, if you look at photos of like really cool haircuts that look good on like a person when people are searching, is if you measure the width here, it's almost equal.
Yeah.
There's like a proportions, like these weird ratios.
100%.
So I'm thinking somewhere around here, right? Because if I do that, that part would fall right around the middle of your forehead, right? Maybe a little higher with the cowlick in place. You know, if you're okay with it being a little shorter in the front.
Absolutely.
Cool. Because it gives you a little bit more life.
Exactly.
And all that. And I'm thinking that will be the tallest part. Yep. And then back here, it'll be a little bit shorter and croppier. Yep. It'll just kind of slightly increase, because I'm thinking you see yourself from here. Mm-hmm. Everyone else sees you from the side, from the 3/4, and behind. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking a cool profile look would be something kind of short and croppy and messy back in through here. Again, allowing this cowlick area to like explode with chaos, but that's what you want it to do. Mm-hmm. And then have it get increased in the front. And then here in the back, it'll go from short, and then it will get into longer. So
100%, dude.
It's your profile's gonna go short to long this way.
Yep.
I think we're good.
And I think that the thing that I've been unsatisfied with a few of the other hairdressers that have done this haircut for me in the last year, is that they've let this stuff stay too long. Yeah. And that's what's made this giant like shelf of hair here. Yeah. That is just feels like this like mop kind of.
Well, I know why that happens completely.
Yeah.
Most people they want that length in the front. Yeah. And so hairdressers are conditioned by clientele that they have. So if there's something that seems really far removed from what they've experienced on a regular basis, they're not likely to dive into it because they don't do it enough to know the outcome.
Yeah. No, we're here to set trends. We're not here to follow the trends.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, let's kick you up, man. All right, dude. So I discovered you through the AMC GameStop timeframe. So that's 2020.
Yep.
To 2021.
Well, yeah, 2021 really blew up.
And you started, I believe, on TikTok?
Yeah. And I didn't start making content back then. I just started buying GameStop shares back then.
Okay. So I want to kind of like give you what I know, and I want you to fill in all the blanks. Is that cool?
Totally.
Awesome. Yeah. So here's what I know about you. You started off with AMC, GameStop. I believe they were like more TikTok videos, or at least that's how I remember having them get sent to me, because I had a lot of friends they were into this. My wife started doing the stock market thing. She got into the Robinhood. She was watching the Zip Trader. She was watching this and that. My wife also had her Series 7 investment license at like 18 years old. So this is something she was already interested in. I had no clue what was going on. What I did know is that I found the whole thing very interesting from a cultural observation perspective, that young people were finally getting involved. I thought it was also very ironic of what Robinhood eventually did. Very ironic of the name. And since then, you have taken this format that got you popular and you've kind of like moved it all around. What started you going down this thing? Because you've amassed, I know on Instagram, you're like approaching 600,000 followers.
Yeah.
What's your TikTok rate?
1.6 or 7 million.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot of eyes on you.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's a lot of eyes on you.
Very quickly too. Yeah. And let's be real, like 50% of those people have a lot invested in this haircut. I'm not deluding myself about why the women follow me.
What?
And some of the others too.
It's the womb brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a little bit of clarification, and a whole bunch of sort of elaboration. In 2021, it was January 2021 is when GameStop started to blow up, and it became this huge news story. And I didn't hear about it until like the biggest day of the cycle.
Okay.
And my brother let me know because he's real smart, very similar, and he's got his eyes on things. And he like got my eyes on it, and I watched the big price movements, and then it dropped. And I got really into digging into Reddit and like this cultural phenomenon, like you were saying, of like I'm a little brother. I'm a F the system guy. I'm definitely and this is before I knew anything. I was like a lifelong Democrat at the time. I was a Washington State, like not native, but I'd grown up there and was into outdoor sports. And
it sounds like you're your classic Pacific Northwest crunchy guy.
Totally classic Pacific Northwest crunchy guy. And I guess to clarify, I had started to ask a lot of questions because during COVID plus BLM up there, that got me kind of just wondering about like what my kind of worldview was.
Okay.
But I hadn't really like filled in any of those gaps. I just had questions. And then getting involved, like, so at first I watched GameStop stock price go crazy. And then I kind of did a little research about why and what people were doing. And I realized that like the thesis about short selling and about how like, not so much that like we're going to make money, but more so that like we're going to protest the system by using their own rules against them to take their money from them. And that just like spoke to my soul. So at first, if I remember correctly, I first bought Bed Bath & Beyond right in like February of 2021 because I was like broke beyond belief. And it was cheaper, and it seemed like the same movements. And then so I think I bought a little bit of Bed Bath & Beyond, a little bit of AMC, and then like a little bit of GameStop. And as I did more research, I realized that it seemed like the other stocks that were involved were not the same as GameStop. And I sold the Bed Bath and the AMC and just focused on GameStop. And I got really into being involved in reading those communities and reading those forums and sort of learning along the way with all of them.
Okay.
And that became this like multi-year journey from 2021 through 2023. We're all locked down in our houses. I was working as a ultra running guide. And then because I had been in restaurants, I'd been in cooking, everything from dishwashing all the way up to being a chef and a kitchen manager through up until 2020. Yeah. And then when restaurants closed down, I spent a year getting paid by the government to do whatever I wanted. And that turned pretty quickly into like, just I started writing books. I started making a whole bunch of art again. I started learning French on my own just to like keep myself busy. So I didn't just like smoke weed and do nothing with my life the whole time. And I'm Bellingham, Washington. And as the government money started to stop flowing, I had no desire to go back into kitchens with COVID restrictions. It was like just it was not my vibe. And it was like, I mean, I was already realizing that kitchens are gonna kind of kill you. They're just like a lot of hard work. Very little reward, very bad for your body and soul. And so I was driving Uber Eats in between running guiding because running guiding is kind of, it's seasonal, but it's amazing. And I love it. And I love the people I was doing it with. That went on for a long time, just kind of observing what was going on with GameStop and doing my thing guiding and driving Uber Eats and trying to make it. And I spent a year trying to do ultra running content because I knew that I had a lot of skill sets that matched with content. I had done a lot of creative work. I'd done a lot of photography work. I understood like lighting and storytelling and writing. And I thought, what makes me special? Like, what can I monetize about myself? And I thought ultra running makes me special.
You didn't want to do OnlyFans?
I mean, with hair like this.
Maybe. I mean, the mustache alone is very, you could easily play a plumber.
Like, I mean, to be fair, it was early in the OnlyFans days.
I'm here to lay some pipe.
And like, I had the wrong mindset. I had the mindset of like, what can I do that will be popular instead of what do I believe it, like what is true to me? Like what do I want to do for the rest of my life? What do I love? What's my dharma? And as I was in that process of trying to produce ultra running content and this adventure content and realizing that the business model of that content is horrible, and also that it's not my dharma because I like going on adventures for myself. Like when I go on, I've never signed up for an official ultra marathon, but I've run a whole like probably definitely dozens of ultra marathons, all solo, self-supported, or as a guide supporting other people.
Okay.
Because I just hate signing up for things. I hate bureaucracy. I hate like lines and all that bullshit. But I love taking care of myself and big adventures and trying to do what seems impossible. And so I eventually realized that my dharma was learning and teaching because I'm the son of two teacher educators.
Oh, okay.
So like when I was a like grade school kid, my like my daycare was going and sitting in the back of the class at like teacher ed class at the college.
If you don't mind me asking, what were the subjects that your parents?
They taught teachers.
They taught teachers how to teach.
Yeah. So like my mom so they met when they were kind of teacher educating and working in schools that were sort of like lab schools where they were studying how education works and how kids learn. And then by the time I was a kid growing up, my dad was a teacher educator that mostly taught elementary ed. So he was teaching elementary teachers how to teach. And my mom became the principal of a really cool private school that was very much like the execution of my dad's work. And not to say that it was his work, but just say the execution of the concepts of teacher ed.
That's cool.
And so I went to that school. So I was like, dinner conversation was, how do you teach teaching? And then my school experience was being taught by some of the like greatest teachers like I've ever had, I could ever imagine. And then I quickly started volunteering there when I went to high school. Okay. I went back and started volunteering as a improv theater teacher, and then as a after school daycare, and then as an assistant writing teacher, and then as an assistant like summer school science programs. So my like from 14 through 26 or 7, I kind of bopped in and out of and around through all sorts of bizarre, cool teaching jobs that were all sort of like kind of off the record, kind of on the record, kind of like intern, kind of like he's just Ian, because it would be like a parent would recommend me, or a teacher that I'd worked with in the past would recommend me. Yeah. And I have no high school diploma. I just kind of like slipped through the cracks and just like.
So you didn't graduate high school?
Nope.
Really?
No. And it's a long story, but basically.
I do find it really interesting that individuals like I wanted to graduate early, and my parents told me I needed to stay in school for the social aspect. At that point, I wanted to be like, do you know who your son is?
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm the most social person.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever. So like, I looked at school as a hindrance on me being able to actually like grow
100%.
And so like, I'm not the biggest fan of formal schooling because I don't think it benefits everybody.
Yep. 100%.
And I always call it the teaching paradox, which this is what I call it. There might be a technical term for it. You might relate to what I'm talking about. But in school, you learn about all these amazing brains, these amazing icons, right? You hear about like Martin Luther and Martin Luther King, right? Mm-hmm. You hear about Galileo and Copernicus and all these people who like basically said, fuck the system. Mm-hmm. But in school, you're taught about all these great revolutionaries, but you can't do that in that institution. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very duplicitous in a certain way.
Yeah, it's a paradox. And it's like wait, you want us to be like these people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to do any of these behavioral traits.
But stay in line, sit down, shut up.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that to me is one of the most like grueling, no, that's a cool Family Guy, but it grinds my gears. Right? It's just like, what the fuck?
100%. I mean, that's the story of like my parents' work their whole lives. The story of my education too. I couldn't agree more, man. And I mean, realistically, I dropped out because I got pneumonia and failed classes based on attendance in my final term of senior year. Yeah. So it was just like, do I want to go back to be a super senior just to get this piece of paper? And the answer was hell no. Yeah. So I traveled and I went and traveled to Guatemala and taught 4th grade in Guatemala for what would have been my super senior year. Okay. And that totally changed the trajectory of my life. Really? To traveling. And yeah, I've spent probably like 3 or more years cumulatively in Guatemala at this point, working and living. And
you speak Spanish?
Yeah. Fluently? Yeah, fluently. I mean, at this point, it's like, it would be broken fluent today, but it would come back immediately.
It's still much better than my Spanish.
So I was a hotel man. I was teaching 4th grade in Spanish to Mayan children. In like a little village, and then I was a hotel like bartender, and then a hotel manager, and
so you had to speak Spanish.
Yeah, working in it. Super fun, super interesting. I mean, that's just kind of like that sort of like crunchy kind of like Northwest kid that we were talking about of like traveling, seeing the world, like backpacking, got into rock climbing, stuff like that.
All the people I've ever met who grew up in that area, I just found them to be very mellow. Yeah, they're grounded.
Yeah.
I didn't feel there was an air of pretentiousness or judgment. I felt that they're like,
I would disagree strongly now, but no. But back in the day, yeah.
Well, it's the same way I talk about California.
Yeah, exactly.
But everybody I know, because they're all now my age, right? So it's not like I'm talking about people who are 19 and 25. But when I was 25 and 19, the people that came from that area were like, that's cool, man. You do you.
Exactly.
And that was always like what I thought it was. Not to mention my favorite band and favorite bands were all from the grunge era.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The home of grunge.
Oh, yeah. And Jimi Hendrix. Don't forget Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for the Northwest, even though it very intentionally left the Northwest now. But we got onto that because I was talking about education, because I've realized that my dharma has always been to teach, and I've always known that. And I actually kind of got out of teaching because I was realizing that, I mean, aside from not having a degree, so the path is hard to weave there.
Yeah.
But I also realized that education happens where attention is being paid. And more in classrooms, we all have been noticing that, like, oh, the kids aren't paying attention to their teachers unless you're an incredible teacher, which is the goal. But they're paying attention to their screens because their actual teachers are all of the influencers that are influencing their thoughts and behavior. And so realistically, if you actually get down to the heart of what education is, influencers are our teachers now, whether we like it or not. That's the nature of the phrase influencer, is they are influencing youth. And so I kind of was realizing that, like, for better or for worse, if you want to be a teacher in the future, that's going to be inside of a screen.
Interesting.
And that kind of scared me off because it's very scary to put yourself out there, and it's very scary to try and fail. And when you have no followers, obviously, it's like you feel like you're going to fail. So I kind of went through like 4 or 5 years of just kind of like, that was where I stopped teaching completely and was just working in kitchen and then just doing ultra running and stuff like that, which was awesome. But eventually through the Instagram stuff, trying to do ultra running Instagram, I realized, like, my dharma is teaching and I need to change the direction of this and launch something totally different. And through a whole bunch of kind of like tumultuous and really synchronistic events, I closed down the old Instagram.
Okay.
And launched this new, I'd never been on TikTok before. I had kind of avoided social media like the plague until trying to do that Instagram thing. And I launched a TikTok, which I'd never been on, but I had been studying the landscape for about a year now at that point, while I was doing the other one. And so I launched on TikTok with what was going to be GameStop content, right?
Okay.
I had pulled up, because I was thinking, I was like, really the thought process in my mind started with what kind of got me over the hump of fear about the teaching thing and about trying to do it, was being in GameStop and seeing all this great research into financial corruption happening within our little Reddit bubble. And no one's making content about it. No one is spreading it out to the general public. And we all know that, like, if you want the word out, you need short form video these days. And so I was like, I'll do it.
Yeah. And short form is only getting short.
Bingo.
It's like, if you don't hook someone in the first 3 to 7 seconds, it's gone.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, you have to Quentin Tarantino the clips. You have to start with the most exciting part first, and then maybe do the explanation later on.
100%. For better or for worse. It's just, it is what it is. Deal with it.
There you go. It's like if it's raining outside and you don't have, and you choose not to bring an umbrella, don't complain.
Yep. You're so dance in the rain.
Yeah. I'm going to take this part short. I'm already starting.
Do your thing.
It automatically wants to stick up. So
don't worry about it.
I'm not worried about it.
I was like ready to pull the trigger on GameStop content, because what I was basically going to do is just pull up the DD, meaning due diligence, like the research that everyone's doing, pull it up, cite them as my source, be like, hey, this user made this great post and this is what it says, and here's a short form video about it. And I pulled up the first one that I loved, that was like this amazing one that changed my whole perspective on like the stock market and everything. And I sat down in front of my camera and was like trying to figure out, how do I condense this and turn this and translate this intelligent short form video content format. And it took me about 20 minutes to realize that I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about. I don't know anything about the stock market, despite being in this forum for years. I don't understand finance. I don't understand how money works. I don't understand how global politics. I don't understand fucking anything. And all of my opinions are based off of like reels and shit.
Somebody might say, had you gotten that diploma? Maybe I'm just fucking.
Maybe you'd be an expert.
I know, right? There's always that asshole in the fucking comments that says something.
Well, they're not wrong entirely. Like, had I gotten a diploma and gone to school for business or something, I would have at least had some foundation in something. I would argue that it'd be a very corrupt foundation that was funded by the people I was trying to hold accountable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but also at the same time, like, I don't think anyone goes into business school going, I'm going to learn about corruption. I think
not
corruption is presented as the ethical moral standard.
Yeah.
And there's a whole nother separate ethics and moral standard. Case in point, just watch the movie Wall Street.
Yep.
Like, just watch that. Like, that right there sets the tone for
100%.
all of this.
Yep.
So you're doing these short form videos. You don't know what the fuck's going on.
Well, I'm not doing them yet. I didn't have them published.
No, I'm saying, like, you're doing these. You don't know how to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
You realize you don't know much of what's going on.
I don't know. Yeah, I realized I don't know anything. And so it took about 20 minutes to basically shelve the whole idea and realize if I'm going to do this, I should do it honestly from where I'm at. You don't need to pretend to be someone. You don't need to pretend to know what you don't know. You don't need to I was still in this mindset of trying to produce what I thought people wanted, what I thought would work. And I realized that what I'm here for is to learn. And as a teacher, if you really teach, you know that the process of teaching is the process of learning, and the process of learning and teaching is intimately tied together. What I needed to do was learn and share the process of learning, because I also knew strategically that no one wants to be preached at from someone with 0 followers. If you have 0 followers, you're nobody and you know nothing, regardless of your credentials. That's the thing about new media. And so I knew that it would be more successful if I didn't present myself as telling people what's real, but rather presented myself as learning along with them and highlighted the information instead of highlighting myself. And so I made my first video about who owns the media. And I just pulled up, I just Googled it. It was like, who owns CNN? Who owns NBC? Who owns Fox News? And that basically led me to stock ownership charts, which leads you to BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard being the top owners of everything. And it was right at this time in our kind of zeitgeist when everyone was down with the BlackRock conspiracy theories. And when TikTok had just released 10-minute videos and was pushing longer videos intentionally, which I didn't realize at the time.
Which is kind of crazy because everything if you do right now, like Instagram, if you have a video over 3 minutes, it will not be pushed to new followers.
Yeah.
So they're intentionally saying, that's great that you did this, but no one's going to see it unless it follows our rules of engagement.
Yeah. And what TikTok was realizing, I believe at the time, was that if you could get creators to make quality long form content that people could watch, like 3 to 10 minutes, you could serve a lot more like advertising dollars. You could get a lot more watch time and keep them on the app for longer, I think was their mindset there. And I don't know if that proved true or not, but regardless, I benefited tremendously because my very first video went extremely viral, got hundreds of thousands of views. My second video went viral. My third video went viral, and I got 300,000 followers a month for the first 3 months. And so within 1 week, at the time I was paying a very small amount of rent, $500 or something to a month to my parents to rent out their studio apartment thing through COVID, because I had moved out of my long story with my roommates. And I went to them and was like, hey, listen, guys, I know rent is due in 2 weeks here. And I don't know how to explain this to you, but there's a thing going on with this social media thing I'm doing right now, and I'm already making money on it, and it's going to be crazy. And we should probably defer this month's rent so that I can just start making videos and not keep wasting my time driving Uber Eats, making $4 to deliver burritos and stuff, because this is already clearly happening. And we deferred that month's rent. And by my second month on TikTok, it might've been my third, but I'm pretty sure it was my second. I made $12,000 on views alone with no sponsors or brands or anything. So it was an immediate launch to the moon. I got very lucky in that regard, but there was some strategy involved, and it's hard to separate the two. And so at the first, what I was doing is I was just had basically humbled myself back down to ground zero, which is, easy when life has kicked you in the teeth a million times on your way to where you are. And just been I don't know anything. I'm just going to start learning and asking questions. And one question inherently leads to the next, to the next, and the next. And so that just started this process of me trying to figure out the big picture of what's going on, who controls the world, who controls the systems in our lives, what about history is real, what is lies, what are the politicians doing, how is money working? Because when you I think we all, especially leading into since 2008, especially into the COVID era, we've all had this growing sense in the zeitgeist that there's something seriously wrong in this world. And we all have a very different opinion, I think, about what exactly is wrong. But I think we all understand that at a certain level, it's corruption, whether you're on the liberal side and you think it's corruption in the Republican politicians and Trump and these billionaire class and stuff, or whether it's on the Republican side and you think it's corruption of like our social fabric and our ideals and like subversive stuff, or whether, you know, everyone has their own kind of view of what the problem is, but it all centers around corruption of financial control of things, I think, in some form, because we all know that money rules the world. And I think we just arrive at different perspectives of like which money is controlling the world and which direction. And at the time, I didn't really have a horse in the race because I had been raised very liberal and I had voted for Obama. You know, I was that guy. But I had also kind of had that shattered by COVID and by BLM, especially because being near Seattle during BLM and watching that kind of liberal mindset from the inside really did not square with rationality for me. And so I sort of was in between the two worldviews at the time. And so I just started digging into the money side of it at first. And intentionally, I stayed non-political for a long time because I wanted to not alienate people so the conversation could be as balanced and as focused on the money as possible. And I knew that eventually, inherently looking for the big picture truths would lead to politics. But for a while, I just stayed with money because I knew that I wanted a solid foundation of understanding like the real power systems before I kind of got caught up in all the propaganda and all because, you know, the moment you get into, I mean, money too, but politics is just so fraught with lies on all sides.
I mean, this is the reason why I've always said, like, my podcast, I'm not going to ever share my own personal views, mainly because I'm not wanted on either side. Yeah. And I say that very publicly. If somebody were to ask me, I'm like, look, I don't really get classified into one side or the other. And I think there's a Chris Rock thing. He goes, there's some shit I like on the left and some shit I like on the right.
Yep.
And I've always told everybody, they go, who do you like? What do you like? I go, I'm the weirdo. I don't care about the people. I care about the policies that are put in front of me, right?
It's weird that's weird.
It is. This is what's strange,
right?
That I'm looking at the policy. Is that policy going to be beneficial to me, my family, my city, my friends, my family, you know, like clients? Like I'm looking at those things, those policies. Like everyone thinks like you've heard this for so many years, and maybe I've only heard this, you know, the national elections don't matter as much as the local elections.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that message really hit home until people were affected during 2020 to 2022 based on the choices of their local elected officials. And then that's when 100%. Everybody was like, oh, these things actually matter. I don't like this, or I do like that, right? Yeah. And it happened across like every state. Yeah. We're dealing with people waking up to the fact that maybe I don't actually like these things, or maybe I like what's going on over there. And so you have the great migrations, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to always play from the point of Switzerland here. Mm-hmm. That's my thing. I always tell people I'm a political junkie. In the same way, you have a person who's just obsessed with sports statistics. Like you ask them, what's your favorite team? They go, I don't really have a favorite team, but I'll tell you what's really exciting to watch right now is there's this tennis player. Yeah. And then they go, well, what's the greatest team right now? Well, the greatest team is over here in the NBA because we're third. Like they're like, I like that. Yeah. Because I've had clients that work for different presidents, administrations. One of my good friends from high school, he was the one he was a campaign manager for Fetterman. So between having clients that work for George W. Bush, and then another friend who works for Fetterman, who is the ground game for Iowa for Buttigieg, I feel that like I have such a variety of people in my world that I don't ever really take a hard stance position, because I think what you're trying to do is you wanted to open up this area of conversation so people can come in and go, here's what I know. I'm wanting to learn something. And then after I'm presented with information, I now can sound my own opinion.
100%. I mean, I'm glad I talked about the educational side of it, like my parents' background and that background, because that is fundamental to where I'm coming from and what I'm doing. Yeah. Is I don't have a higher education, and that, you know, there's value to having a higher education, but my lower education was good. And not because of anything like technical or specific about it, but because it it really instilled in me a hands-on approach to understanding how we got to know what we know. How did the academy of ideas that we currently live our lives operating off of evolve? And that is through a process of inquiry and debate. And I would argue that in the maths and sciences, in the STEM fields, it evolved through a process of inquiry, which is the scientific method in general, applied to these different fields. And in the humanities and the social sciences and the arts, it evolved through a process of debate, more or less, generally applied to each of those different fields. And that is fundamentally a process that is not partisan, right? The process of inquiry is a process of asking a question, looking for evidence, doing tests and experiments, seeing what happens, drawing conclusions, rewriting your hypothesis, and continually learning. More and more and more, our education system is moving away from that. And definitely more and more, our science and political theater systems are completely divorced from that. And I think that COVID was a great, not just COVID about the medical stuff, but COVID just about politics and the world and everything. And so
this was your big wake up.
It was definitely
my big wake up.
Yeah, I woke up in 2020. It took me a couple of years to get the guts, and I posted my first video in May of 2023. So I'm still less than 2 years into this. So it's been a wild ride.
So my timeline of discovering you is warped because I thought it was right during that time.
A lot of people think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But how do I know that didn't actually happen? Because I have some Fruit of the Loom stuff.
I know, right?
The Mandela effect, right? No. But it does feel like I also wonder because there was so much going on during that time. It doesn't those years blurred.
Yeah.
They blur. They do not feel like there is a cutoff. I feel like 2020 starts in spring. It doesn't actually start. It didn't start in January. It started in the spring because that's when everything was radically different.
Yep.
And then it didn't really the veil of 2020 didn't really lift until about a year ago.
I feel like the veil didn't even lift until this presidential election. And I don't mean that in a political sense. I mean that in kind of there were no vast shifts. It was a slow, gradual easing. But I was living up in Washington State, where to this day there are still signs up. There are still mask mandates at certain stores. People are still wearing masks in their cars. And so in where I was based, the 2020 atmosphere never really lifted. And there was no shift in that policy ever until this election, it's felt. And maybe that's because of the life I've lived in, the traveling I'm doing. But in general, it's just been a very weird timeline.
So you're up in the Pacific Northwest, where I was there last fall or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the Oregon Valley.
Yep.
And I did feel that those things were still present and also very normal. It wasn't you don't see any of that stuff here in Texas.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Yeah. It's like a blanket. It's it is a monoculture that to where up in Bellingham, Washington, for example, I knew a lot of people that disagreed with it or were actually Trump voters or, or were liberals that weren't down with the sort of authoritarian nature of it or the non-bodily autonomy of it. Mm-hmm. But it is such a the mindset is so homogenous up there with so few pockets of dissent. There's no there's no diversity of opinion in the cities up there that those people know very dang well to keep their mouths shut. And I was slowly becoming one of those to the point where I'd be on my cooking job and the guy next to me on the cooking line all day is spending all day just spouting really intense political opinions, which are normal opinions to have in that part of the country. But without even giving a moment's thought to the fact that I might have a different opinion than him.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it was honestly I'm not trying to complain about it. It's not it was oppression, but it feels a little oppressive to be in a place where you just stop voicing your opinion. You just stop communicating because it's legitimately you'll lose your job in a lot of those situations if you start voicing those opinions.
I understand. I always maintain a public appearance of my social media, which is I only post hair, family, food, fun.
Yeah.
That's it. I never say, hey, this person's great, go vote for them. I've never done that. I don't feel the need to do that. I don't feel like that's really my my job. I don't feel like that's my purpose. My purpose is to raise 2 boys and to be a good husband.
Amen, dude.
And to give great
100%.
That's it. Like,
amen.
That's it. That's all I
dude,
want to do.
If only 99% of America thought that way, we would save the country immediately.
Well, you were talking about your aha moment. So I wanted to ask you before this, because you said something earlier about not really liking authority.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Good question.
That's why I'm asking, because you don't have this. I feel like because visually, when you think of people that are very rebellious, and they have a tendency to want to almost like an animal that's poisonous. They have bright colors.
Yeah, they look that way.
To warn you, by the way, I'm a little dangerous.
Yeah.
And to have these things where you're a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for?
I mean, I look pretty clean cut. I look pretty crew, right?
Yeah. Mustache.
Yeah.
Crew cut.
I mean, I look like I could be like an ex-jock, like sports player and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good question.
You don't have any sort of like wild colored hair, facial tattoos, piercings. Your style of clothing isn't to like draw attention, to make people.
It's very plain.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
Almost as plain as a white T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But growing up in the heavy metal scene in Southern California, I also had a lot of friends that were in punk bands, like punk music, and they're very visually striking people. Yeah. And they are also very much against authority.
Yeah.
So like, I think people kind of equate, if you will, visual with also that, where if you have somebody who looks very, very, very basic, let's use that word, very, very, very plain, very, John Smith or Mike Jones, whatever names that sound very, very vanilla. And then to find out that they have quite a wild streak in them I think is always surprising to people.
This is a very perceptive question because this is not something that is, I have a very I don't have to think about my answer at all because it's very intentional. I grew up, which one came first? Skateboarding came first. I mean, the hate for authority, I think, comes from being a younger brother. And the thing that I've always hated the most, my greatest fear and my greatest enemy has always been powerlessness. There's nothing I hate more than feeling powerless, like whether that's being pinned down by your older brother or just the powerlessness of like being in a situation where you have no control. That is the thing I hate the most in the world. And there's no better example of that than an oppressive government or like your school, telling you how it's going to be or whatever it is,
Yeah.
And so I assume that's related to how I naturally fell into like loving skateboarding, not so much team sports. And then I got really into graffiti art and I wrote graffiti, not always, in the right places.
You mean it wasn't publicly sanctioned graffiti?
Yeah, non-sanctioned graffiti through middle school and high school. I don't know if my mom actually technically knows that yet. I assume she assumed it, but...
don't send her this podcast.
Oh, she'll find it eventually. It's no big deal. We've been through much worse. But I was sneaking out in middle school and high school and stuff to go write graffiti. And I was a skater kid, a snowboarder and stuff. And at the time I looked the part, I was dressing that way.
Well, I see the holes.
Yeah, I got big plugs. And I used to have super long, crazy hair. I got tattoos. And I'm from the hippie world. I've done all kinds of music festivals. I used to work music festivals doing harm reduction and security. I've toured the California coast doing music festivals. So I'm totally from that world. And then at a certain point, I realized, I don't really know the thought process that went into deciding this, but I've always loved, what's the word I'm looking for here is my favorite people are those that don't judge books by their covers, but are wise enough to understand that the world is complex and that they might not know everything and that they are lifelong learners.
Oh, yeah.
And those are the people that don't just immediately assume you are as you appear. And so I intentionally appear in a different way than I actually am. So that people that assume that I am just this kind of vanilla, normal looking, kind of center of the road dude will treat me that way. And I can immediately identify that they're treating me that way.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm like, then I dismiss them or don't like them, but it's like, it makes me aware that like, maybe they're not going to be the most like, maybe they're not the person I'm going to have the conversation about the nature of psychedelics with, right? Yeah. Maybe they're not the person I'm going to have a conversation about like whether Jeffrey Epstein killed himself or not with, right?
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And so I actually almost started using it in my mid-20s as a way to filter people and find people that are truly like open-minded and like, and because those are my people. And I mean, I still have a lot of that in me, but I also through, you know, I got into working out and I got into health and fitness and I got into running and all these other things that, yeah, feel free to do whatever you want with those.
Yeah, but I'm just looking for your symmetry here.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure that we're good. So that way when we get into this top area, it's like, yeah. Because now that your hair's dry, I'm seeing your hair's very straight, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just looking like, oh, well, this bellows out a little bit. And so I just need to, sorry.
No, but yeah, you're very perceptive to notice that I don't look like that rebellious spirit. And in a lot of ways, I have tempered it and found balance, which I attribute hugely to my brother. He's always been the balanced one and I've always been the crazy one. And my mom's greatest fear my whole life was that I would fall into hard drugs and fall off the face of the earth and do something horrible. And it wasn't an unfounded fear because when I was young, I was a total wild child, total thrill seeker. Like I was the dude like jumping over roads on my snowboard and like sneaking out and getting into trouble. Like, but I was fortunate and they had instilled enough sort of like positive values in me and enough sort of like, I guess like aspirations for greatness that I always had this little voice in my head of like, don't ruin your life.
Yeah.
And I had enough wisdom to understand what will and will not ruin your life, at least to a certain degree. So I stayed, you know, a relatively sane course while being a total experience seeker.
It's funny you said like will or will not ruin your life. Like I know so many people who, when I say so many, like, you know, not hundreds, but definitely closer to 20, who went off to go to college and college was what exactly messed them up. Yep. They had no understanding of not going out every night.
Yeah.
You know, so like they experienced freedom for the first time and what happens, academic probation, and then, you know, doing the right thing led them down the wrong path, right? So like, exactly. I always think it's interesting how then you also have other people who start off, sounds much like yourself, where they start off very wild, very early. And then by the time they're at that age of like, they're in their early to mid 20s, they kind of go, I think I'm done here.
Yeah.
It's like Forrest Gump. I'm going to go back home.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm done.
Yup, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I'll always have that streak in me. That's how I do what I do. That's who I am. But certainly through, I mean, really, I attribute a lot of it to working out, to finding fitness and health. Because I grew up very malnourished. I have Crohn's disease or something similar. And yeah, it's not diagnosed because my mom has Crohn's disease and it took her 47, I think, years for a doctor to diagnose it. And it was her eye doctor that finally caught it because you start to go like, I think it's that you start to go blind with certain symptoms. And they were like, and she started to go blind and her eye doctor was like, what the hell is going on? And so, but she had been like suffering from these like extreme, like she has almost died multiple times, has lost multiple parts of her intestine, all kinds of stuff. Like as I was growing up, she was on almost 50 pills a day. And then as I was hitting puberty and the same symptoms started to appear in my life, she was finding a diet solution that is very similar to like a carnivore or a like no carb diet kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That totally turned her life around and suddenly it's like 2 pills and 4 vitamins a day. And so I realized, fortunately, at an early age of like, oh, I have the same thing and I have the solution right in front of me. And although it's a lot of work to like, you know, if you want a muffin, you make it out of almond flour. And if you want a snack, like you cook some meat. Yeah. But oh boy, the transformation of how I felt. I went from like, I didn't even understand what it meant to feel like a whole healthy human.
Yeah.
And so in finding health and then finding fitness and then working out, that just changed the game in a big way.
You're probably going to get hair in your water now.
Yeah, I'm not going to drink it anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Probably better because we don't want to go pee until we're done here. So.
All right, cool. So this is where we're at right now. You got your...
Heck yeah, dog.
Yeah, so I'm going to...
Yeah, I think you're picking up exactly what I'm putting down on this.
Yeah.
And I assume you're going to kind of like put those sideburns under control later too.
I'm going to wait till we're all done. Yeah. I think your sideburns are kind of like there's certain parts of a haircut that are like putting the cherry on top of the sundae.
The final detail.
Yeah, it's like when you're doing like a yogurt parfait, like you can just put the yogurt wherever, right? But you want to make it look nice. You want to make it a little bit controlled. Then you got to figure out, do you want to put the berries?
100%, bro.
So to me, it's like yogurt, berries, granola, drizzle of honey. Like
you're speaking to the chef in me, dude.
Yeah, that's the way you do it.
You can't garnish before the meal's done.
And that's what this is.
Dude, check out that faux hawk with the curl. Whoosh. That's what's up.
Yeah, so this is going to be cool.
Yeah.
So you started off with just learning and just sharing your exploration, your inquiring, which, by the way, I think we don't have enough. I don't think we have enough people who are curious in the world.
Oh, totally.
We just don't.
I mean, the education system, in not all cases, but in many cases, is designed to sort of like railroad teachers into kind of perpetuating a system that kind of kills curiosity.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
It's no fault of 99% of teachers. No. It's just, the system perpetuates it.
That's what they're told to do.
Yeah. How they're taught.
And, like I'm doing math homework with my son who's in second grade, and he's showing me how they're doing math.
Yeah.
And I kept telling him, I'm like, I go, I understand that your teacher told you to do math like this, but it's way harder. He's like, no, let me show you. And he shows me. I go, can I show you? And he threw a fit. He got really upset at me because I'm showing him something different. He goes, I have to do it like this. I have to show my work like this. And I go, I understand you have to do this. But let me show you the way that your mama and I learned how to do adding and subtracting, like very easy. And he's like, whoa, this is easier. I'm like, then why did they change all this stuff? Like, why did they go? Because I can see how my son's getting confused. I'm looking at this like 95 steps. I'm over exaggerating, but it feels like 95 steps to do something so simple. I'm like, you just do this and that.
Over time, I feel like and this is, it's a different version of this in every state and different testing and different place. But like in general, over time, I feel like education is skewed away from teaching the fundamentals of thought and how to perceive and understand and ask questions and find answers. Yeah. And it is skewed towards systems, teaching kids systems that cut them off from that ability and instead are rote memorizations and techniques that don't apply beyond the context in which they're taught.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a conspiratorial edge to why that would happen. And I don't necessarily believe that there's a conspiracy to it, but I certainly have seen the trend from the inside and the outside of the education system. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking coming from a world where I very much grew up in the world of how to teach children from systems thinking and like curiosity and inquiry and how to teach themselves. And I also grew up in a place where like I went to and then worked at a school where we saw the results of those systems creating brilliant thinkers. I'm way dumber now, but when I graduated from that school where my mom was the principal, I went into high school 3 grades ahead in math, 2 grades ahead in Spanish, and 2 grades ahead in science. Yeah. And then I immediately started failing every single class at public high school because it was so boring that I was just screwing off and checking out of class and like just playing pranks. And
isn't it funny that the people, I've always thought about this. Like I was taking college night courses at 16 because I was bored.
Exactly.
And they didn't offer the philosophy and ethics classes at a college level in high school. Yeah. That was stimulating to me. And I wonder if one of my sons, if not both of my sons, are sort of in that same world where they kind of tune out of school, not because they can't do it, but because their mind is thinking about far more exciting things because they want to learn them. They're not getting taught the things that are of interest because they're dumbed it down.
I would argue that 90 to 95% of kids probably are in that boat, way more than most like parents or people think, because it's not just a problem of they're dumbing it down, which they are, and they have been for a long time. And we know that teaching, and that comes right back to like the George Bush, like Obama era of like teaching, no child left behind, teach the lowest common denominator and keep everyone at that denominator. But now actually, I think that especially like our generations, especially Gen Z generation, realizes that our kids are growing up in an information saturated world that though the information doesn't present in the same way. And what we think of as intelligence isn't the same.
Yeah.
They know so much more than we could possibly understand. And if you don't listen for how they're communicating that intelligence, like how the world has changed from the world we grew up in, it's really easy to miss the fact that like, oh, this kid is light years ahead of my understanding of things. Yeah. They're just learning about it from a world that I don't understand.
I was telling my wife last night, because we were talking about social media and this and that. I said, we were not raised to be equipped to the reality in which we live in.
No.
My kids are going to be more equipped if things don't change drastically in the next 20 years. It's a very, very odd thing to be thinking about, is that, you know, you're only able to really understand and handle with through your experience. Mm-hmm. Let me get all this hair off you.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So let's do a quick check-in with the hair. The front still needs to go short.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot.
Oh yeah, you haven't really shortened it at all. You just kind of textured it.
I was just trying to get, remember I was saying about splattering yogurt at the bottom? I'm just trying to get the unnecessary off so I can start seeing like these pieces.
Yeah, and see what it's going to do.
Yeah. So that's where I'm like, okay, now I know what I need to be doing to get that to work. So I would style your hair by pushing this all forward and then pushing this up versus running your hands all the way back. Because think of your hair like wood grain. If you go against the grain, it's not smooth. It's rough. Yeah. So your hair going back is against the grain. Your hair going forward is with the grain. Or the way you want to cut steak. I can come up through.
No, I'm totally with you, man.
Yeah. A client actually brought that to my attention. He goes, I think you need to cut with the grain on my hair. What do you mean? I did the haircut perfect by both the way it's supposed to do. And it did not work out.
It's totally right.
It didn't exactly.
Yeah.
And
you're exactly on point.
Yeah. So see how your hair wants to move forward. And that's why these pieces, that's why they're leaving them longer. Because if you're pushing your hair back, it does it. So the modification of how you would style your hair, I would recommend is just push this all forward and then lift up what you want up in the front.
Yep.
Cool?
Yep. No, I like what you're doing up there. I'm not stressed at all.
Glad. I'm glad one of us is that. So this whole thing has really turned into like you just now diving down a bunch of rabbit holes.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's totally evolved.
Yeah. Let's not like tiptoe around. You're hitting some things that are some very sensitive subjects for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, I've always been a fan of, you know, I don't know what to say, controversial, or I definitely like contrarian personalities.
Yeah.
Because I had a client, and I said this in another podcast, but I'll say it again because I think it needs to be said, is that in nature with wild horses, the ones on the front and on the sides are called fringe. And the purpose of these fringe horses is to warn the rest of the horses to avert danger.
This is a good metaphor.
So when people say they are on the fringe, well, that's a fringe belief. I know in nature, particularly with horses, that it serves a very life-saving purpose.
Yep.
So when somebody goes, oh, they're fringy, I go, ooh, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Because anything that's revolutionary started off on the fringes of society.
Both good things and horrible things.
Yeah, that's it. I remember one of my philosophy teacher, can't remember his name, but everything we were learning was like during about like Socrates, and then we learned about everything that was like pre-Christian beliefs. And everybody in the class who was raised heavily on Christian beliefs, all were arguing the belief system of that time with their belief system that came later. And he goes, no, by the way, your belief system was considered a fringe and a cult.
Yep.
And the person goes, I am not part of a cult. He goes, the difference between a cult and a religion are numbers. And it stuck with me.
Yep. I
was 16, going on 17, and that stuck with me. And it made me start going like viewing everything throughout history and current events as a very, like, I'm not even going to be connected to these things because that had a huge, tremendous impact on me.
Yeah. Sounds like that was your moment of like seeing the herd for what it is. Not as necessarily bad, but just as that you don't want to identify. Like, I personally, speaking for myself, sometimes it's right to be with the herd because sometimes the herd's right, but you don't want to stake your entire identity and your survival and your path on betting that the herd will always be right. You want to be thinking independently of like, where is this herd going and what are the fringes saying and why are we going where we're going and what does that mean for me?
I was radicalized with free thought. I like to use that phrase.
Yeah.
Much earlier.
Yeah.
I have always had an interest in extraterrestrial life.
Yup.
And I'm a product of watching the X-Files.
Let's go.
So for me, you go to the paranormal section of the bookstore or a library, and you would have all of this stuff like, ghosts, supernatural dimensions, quantum physics, all this abstract thinking stuff. And then you'd have aliens, and then you'd have conspiracies. And some of those conspiracy books had a variety of things.
Yep.
And some of those things included extraterrestrial stuff. So that's, for me, the book that I was able to use as a book report. I don't remember what it was. The book report, the frame of what I was able to do. But I read the book, Behold the Pale Horse, first pressing by Bill Cooper in 1995. So this book had only been out for a few short years at that time.
Yep.
And that was my moment of me going, I have no clue if any of this is true, but it was very exciting to read.
Yep.
And if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's a strange book, especially when you get to page 225. They talk about SSRIs at that time and the Second Amendment. It was interesting. It made no sense in 1995. And then you fast forward to April 20th, 2000. And so some people say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And I feel like that could be, what's the word? Pejorative? Pejorative. That's right. And I look at it, go, it could be for some. I just look at it like, I don't know what's true and what's not true. Like the joke, the saying about jokes, 13% of truth is in every joke, right? Or something like that. Like there's truth in everything. There might be some stuff, And so you've definitely gotten into more conspiratorial.
Oh, big time.
Now than you seem like you were.
In some ways. I blew up on the BlackRock conspiracies. Yeah. And it's not that I was peddling like BlackRock controls the world. That was never my stance. My stance was always like, what do we actually know for sure? Like, what are the stats? What are the numbers? What are the facts? How can we uncover the truth of what is going on here? And I love unpacking the concept of conspiracy theory, and I don't take it as a pejorative at all. I just take it as anyone that thinks it is a pejorative hasn't really thought it through. Because, the legend, the myth, is that the CIA didn't invent, but they popularized the word conspiracy theory in the media around the JFK assassination.
Absolutely.
And then they debunked that by saying, no, we didn't. We investigated and we didn't do that because you can see that it was used before that in other books occasionally. And it's like, yeah, cool, whatever. Great debunk, guys. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant whether or not the CIA invented it. Because if you just think about the word conspiracy, what conspiracy means is people working together to achieve a goal. And the concept of a conspiracy in this context implies like an evil goal or like an illegal goal, right?
Yeah.
So what is organized crime? That's a conspiracy. What is an intelligence agency? That's a conspiracy. What is a political party? That's a conspiracy.
Could you say parents planning
100%
kids?
Conspiracy. It's people working together to achieve a goal, right? And you would be an absolute fool to presume that in our corporate world, no corporation would ever conspire to do something, right? And I can talk at length about McDonald's conspiring with the maker of their ice cream machines to make broken ice cream machines, which is being proven out in court, in official court documents, that they conspired for decades to be selling broken ice cream machines to all the McDonald's franchises so that their buddies over at Taylor that make the machines would make all their money off of repairs.
I'm going to pause you right there. Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
When I did eat McDonald's, I never encountered a broken ice cream machine. So when I saw all of these memes, I was like, what is this? Like, birds aren't real?
No, but I love making jokes about birds.
But because I'm like, I've never, ever experienced broken ice cream.
How long ago did you last eat McDonald's? Like, did you kind of stop eating McDonald's 10 years ago or more?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I stopped eating McDonald's in my mid-20s.
Yeah, I'd be very curious. So I don't know personally when the ice cream phenomenon started, but I know that there is a website now that actively live tracks around the country which McDonald's ice cream machines are up and which ones are down. And you can look in real time at an ice cream machine map And it's like, and I've checked when I was doing that story, I checked it, every other day, and it was averaging out between like 15 and 25% of McDonald's ice cream machines were down at any given time. The meme definitely has legs, and there's a reason. And when you dig into the court filings of this company called Kitsch that is suing Taylor and McDonald's, you realize that there's a very genuine conspiracy there. And there's like endless examples of corporations, committing either white collar crime or RICO fraud or all these other things. And being prosecuted for and going to prison, paying huge fines, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
And so that's just one example is the corporate world, then like not to mention the political world. And so when we really think about it, obviously conspiracies exist. The question is which ones are real and which ones are not, right?
I'm glad you brought that one up. You know where I'm headed.
Bingo. I mean, that's where my whole platform has always been headed is when I started, it was like, who controls the world? What, because like we all have this story we're told in school that like we elect the American president and the American empire is fighting for peace and democracy. And sure, we made some mistakes, but in general, we're like kind of the good guys more or less. And we're doing our best to like make the world a safer, freer place. And we have this like kind of global narrative of history that we're taught in school. But I think we all kind of understand that history is written by the victors and that we're probably not being told the full story.
I don't think anyone knows the full story.
Not in the slightest.
Well, the reason I say that is I don't think, I've always said that if somebody really told the truth of what happened, everyone is wrong and everybody's a little right.
Yep. The truth is many things, but one thing it is definitely not as simple. And I think that inherently, especially when you're trying to teach kids history from a history book, you're oversimplifying beyond all belief, even if you were trying to tell them the truth. And I would argue that in many instances, we are actively not trying to tell kids the truth because the truth is that the U.S. government, elements of the U.S. government have been involved in things like smuggling drugs into our own country to get our own citizens hooked on drugs. Starting wars illegally without telling us and trying to keep it covered up and then getting found out.
Yeah.
Possibly being involved in the assassination of our own president. Things like that.
I mean, that was just a recent thing that's coming out,
Yeah. We're getting a lot more about that one.
Well, that's another time.
So I've been digging into like right from the start, I knew that my content was going to be conspiracy theory oriented. And part of that is because of the nature of like trying to get to the truth, but it's also just fun. It's just what I tell fun.
It's fun.
It's fun. I love ancient Egypt stuff. I love alien stuff. It's just fun.
Like, I don't make fun of people. I don't go like, oh, you like Harry Potter?
So you believe in wizards?
I don't do that. But
why not?
I could.
But like,
the majority of most of the fans of Harry Potter don't believe wizards are real. That would be my hypothesis. And I would follow it up with that they probably wish those things were real.
Oh, totally. Dude. Or like dragons or like...
Well,
we could go down to
dragons. Talk about dragons. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm definitely like, I'm with you on that. I think that like but when people say that you like conspiracies, I tell people they're fun.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Yeah. You don't have to take everything so seriously. Like, calm down.
Like,
just because you talk about an idea does not mean you believe it. Just because you talk to a person does not mean you agree with them.
Yeah, I know.
But I get accusations now.
If we actually went through it, you and I would agree on some things and vastly different on other things. But the one thing I think the thing that we want to agree on more is having the platform or the space to have a civil conversation.
Yeah, just have to have a conversation where you don't have to judge a person's character based upon the ideas they're willing to discuss.
Yeah.
Right. Totally. Like, and so like, I'm at the point now where in social media, I get attacks that are like, Ian, you talked to this person that that's in a photo with this other person. How can you explain justifying that? And I'm like,
I have a feeling I'm going to have to do the same thing with you.
You're 100%. You will. Yeah.
You'll get like, hey, and I'm like, look, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you could also do the same thing with people who, everyday people. You'd be like, look, why you still listen to that Puff Daddy song? Why is it still saved on your Spotify playlist? How could you sleep at night knowing what may have happened at Neverland Ranch with Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
How dare you listen to anything produced by, the guy, the Spectre, like the Wall of Sound, like Ronnie Spector. I think it's Ronnie Spector, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's all of these people. You could easily say, I can't believe, like, oh, you can even get it bigger as you like the movie Naked Gun? It had OJ in it. How dare you?
Exactly. I like where this is going up here too. But it's like the ultimate expression of the thought police, and it's creeping into our culture in a million little ways. And the piece of like liberalism and the left that, I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating to call this a piece of liberalism, but the piece that I have and will always retain from that political upbringing that I think we need more of in this world in every way is just tolerance and like the ability to not need to like judge everyone for everything. Like where I come from, and maybe this is not the left anymore, right? But I feel like I grew up in a place where like you don't need to judge someone based upon who they love or what they believe, or it's like, are they hurting people? Are they hurting you? Are they making your life worse? Are they stealing? Are they committing crimes? Like, are they just making like their own life choices that make them feel good that have nothing to do with you? Like, just leave them alone, bro.
Yeah. No.
And then it's like the beauty of the world is getting to like interact with those other people. If everyone thought like me, it'd be boring. If everyone thought exactly like you would never learn anything. You would never experience a different culture. You would never experience a different perspective.
I mean,
you know,
I love meeting people who have a different background.
Mm-hmm.
And background could be so many things. Background could be the most obvious thing like male, female, non-binary, different color, eye color, hair color, height, weight. It doesn't matter. Different background is different. You can have two people who look identical, but they come from very different socioeconomic backgrounds. And this is where like it gets fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you talk to like when you start really getting out of like the very upfront basic things that visually define us differently, that's where it gets interesting to me. Because I found that like people who grow up in a lower socioeconomic class, they have a lot more in common together, regardless of what they look like. My favorite conspiracy theory was that we are at our greatest during the Occupy Wall Street. That's when we were our most. That's when we were closest to the castle.
Yeah, and then everyone in the castle got real scared, and mentions of racism and sexism and all these other culture war topics exploded in the media.
Yeah.
Not by accident, because that's how you divide people amongst each other and have them fight each other.
Yeah. And a client brought that up to my attention.
Yeah, bingo.
And I was like, and they were in, and just for context, this individual worked in college.
Yeah.
And they were saying they noticed that after that, there was a lot more division and less unity on the campus.
Exactly.
Where people normally would get together. Now they're not. I've never lived those lives. I'm only observing things and reporting on what people tell me.
Yep.
And that's a hard thing for people to like. If just because I didn't live it, and I can't mention what somebody did, or like what they noticed. It's just a strange thing.
Yeah. And I think it's unfortunate right now, but like, I think I'm trying to intentionally avoid getting like informational in this podcast because it's way more fun to just be on this sort of like big picture, like but and
I feel this is the conversation that needs to happen.
100%. We need to stop worrying about the minutia we disagree about and start realizing that we all share so much more in common. But there is one fundamental thing that I've learned along the journey about like history and just like a fact of the world that is really important. Mm-hmm. And it's that intelligence agencies are like, they're real. And the CIA is not the only one. You know, every country has their own several intelligence agencies and they all have their own interests.
Yeah.
But in general, intelligence agencies exist. They were founded during the Cold War and built up during the Cold War from nothing to some of the most massive, insane black budgets imaginable. And this is true of every nation that has an intelligence agency.
Yeah.
And those intelligence agencies' job is explicitly to control the information space. And it has been from the very start, because the Cold War was the transformation of realizing we're not going to fight war with guns anymore because it's too dangerous to fight against each other when we have nukes. Now we're going to subvert each other with ideology. And it's very clear when you read about the history of the CIA and the history of the KGB and the history of all these other intelligence agencies that their job right from the start was to control how people think about politics and the world and their history. And they do that in foreign countries by like starting a coup, funding a radio station that like, you know, creates separatist propaganda or whatever it is. But they also, we've learned more and more since the Pike and Church committees all the way till today, that they do it here too by trying to control our media and our information space as well.
I remember reading, and I may have read this wrong, but like one of the head, like not the founders of the CIA, one of the top controllers of the CIA was ex-Nazi propagandist through Operation Paperclip.
Oh yeah,
because NASA is von Braun was one of the most amazing rocket missile guys in the Nazi Party.
Yeah,
and they Operation Paperclip, people thought
crazy rabbit hole,
but it's fascinating because after World War II, America took some, Russia took the others, and they installed all of these high-ranking, non-triable Nazi party members, and they installed them into these high-ranking intelligence agencies, or like NASA.
Oh yeah, it's complicated.
You get
I'll take you one.
Hang on. That's the one that I'm able to get most people to now start to question stuff.
Oh yeah,
because it's not only it was rumored for the longest time, and then probably in the last 10 years, it's been proven to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure when the first document releases were. I think that we got some of that during the Church and Pike committees in the 70s, but not the whole picture. And then we got more declassification. Annie Jacobson wrote a really good book called Operation Paperclip. I highly recommend everyone read it if they're interested.
Is there anything you're seeing that you're like, you know what? Can we make that shorter? Can we move this around? The front being a little shorter, or the back? I don't know.
The front could go a little shorter.
Okay.
Yeah, the front could go shorter. It won't ever really, unless I purposely give it this much body, it won't have this much body on the average day. Yeah. I would imagine that if you think it is not, like, I don't know how hair works.
Yes.
This part could get shorter if that makes sense for how the hair will lay. Mm-hmm. But it's not a huge deal. Like, I like the shape. It's like somewhere between like looking like a military crew cut and somewhere between like when it's actually like laying and curling, it'll like just have like different, it'll look different from every angle in terms of who you think I am, which I think is kind of fun.
Yeah. I do feel that, I don't know if this needs to get shorter because I've been using the blower.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just really puffy right now.
Yeah. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dampen it down again. But I need to see where it is at its most expansive.
Yeah.
So let's go through and just bring this part down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I don't think it needs to come down much at all. But
no, like maybe that much.
This piece right here, this one right there, that part of my hair always has a real mind of its own. Okay. And it's always very like temperamental and so I don't know if the solution to that is to like bring it up, like cut it a little more in, or if it's like at the right length right now. Yeah. But I'm seeing it do its little shape thing that it always does in that corner.
Yeah. I think going through and making it part of this.
Yeah, exactly.
That was good. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out about your hair, because I'll tell you what I've learned is when someone tells me their hair does something, to not go, you don't know what you're doing. I can't tell you. I had a client, she had curly hair, and she said, do not diffuse my hair. And I'm like, okay, watch, because my hair gets big. I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. You've been doing it wrong this whole time, blah, blah, blah. So what did I do? What did 26-year-old Tam do?
Yep.
I diffused her hair and it looked awful. And I said, you were right. She goes, I told you, why did you not believe me? I said, well, most often clients are doing the wrong application. They're doing the wrong, blah, blah, the wrong product, using the wrong everything. And so I just assume that people are just doing everything wrong. And so I don't believe them.
Yep.
And that's when I realized, like, maybe some people do know what they're talking about.
Yep.
And so when somebody says that, I don't write it off anymore. I go, okay. And then I try to see it from their perspective, what it is that's bothering them. Because I don't see something, but you're like, oh, as it grows out, I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
So thank you for telling me.
I mean, you've also just hit on the root of what I call the expert bias, which is that we've lived in a world of experts where we're trusting the experts for so long on the media, in our classrooms, in our textbook, like in every format. And that's, experts are great. But we've been realizing more and more that as the sort of corporatocracy has gained power in the world for the last several hundred years, more and more they're capable of buying experts and buying the education that creates experts and funding education in order to skew the testimony of experts.
Oh, yeah.
And so in sort of doing what I do more and more as I got further into things, I started to confront this like problem of who do you trust with this information? Because in the financial world, for example, you very quickly start to realize that the big banks and the system that is running the world right now is the one funding financial education. And so they're getting educated into believing that this is the status quo and it's normal, but it's actually like basically just normalized fraud in many instances. But then there's other instances where if you get too deep into that mindset, you start to think you know things that you do not know, because reality is extremely complex. And the like instrumentation that we use to understand science, for example, at this point is very complex. And you might be misreading this graph or misunderstanding this chart, or, you know, there's so many ways that being not an expert can make you think you know more than you do. So it's like this impossible balance of how do you get to the root of information without accidentally parroting propaganda that was paid for.
I mean,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about the not being an expert, I always think of Terrence Howard.
Yeah.
Like with his whole thing.
Yeah.
And Weinstein.
Yeah.
Like they were talking back and forth. That was an amazing thing. And I actually really got a lot more respect for how Weinstein handled.
I like Weinstein a lot.
I just like how he handled talking to somebody who.
Yeah, to be clear, we're talking about Eric Weinstein, not Harvey Weinstein right now.
Right. Yeah.
Or was it Brett? Are we talking about Brett? I think
Weinstein.
we're talking about Brett, right?
Yeah. Not Dark Horse Podcast.
I mean, I like Eric and Brett Weinstein. I like them both.
It's
a
Brett
lot.
Weinstein.
Even though I disagree with a lot of their political views and a lot of their stance on things, I love their inquisitive nature and their willingness to change their minds and their willingness to debate. Like they are the true. They're the epitome of the academy that we should be upholding. You know, the Academy of Ideas.
Yeah.
The educators that like. From like a slightly more liberal perspective, you know, I really admire them.
I don't really care what political side somebody's on when it comes to academics, as long as the pursuit for the truth is what is above all.
Bingo.
Like if they go, I think this is the case, and then it comes out going, I was wrong. Guess what? Like now we all know this.
Exactly.
That to me is the most meaningful thing for humanity.
I mean, I think we all know deep down that what we really want is not this side or that side. What we really want is balance. And that's the whole point of why the system is how it is it's supposed to be balanced. We're supposed to have some liberal ideas in the sense of like, we want to pool our resources and work collectively to help make society a more inviting, inclusive, and better place for those that are disadvantaged or could use some help, or your grandma, or whatever it is. But we also want some conservative values in order to not let the sort of like liberalism can very quickly lead to trampling on people's voices and individuals. Yeah. And individualism can very quickly lead to leaving people behind that we would love to bring with. And we all kind of know that we want each side of that political divide to temper each other and to have a rational conversation in the middle where they both check and balance each other on the pursuit of truth and policy and such. But it's that duality has been weaponized by mostly piles of money that realize that if you can get the sides to fight against each other, you can just make so much money off of the conflict, so to speak.
And I think some of these groups, perhaps, you know, if they exist, they probably have trillions of dollars that we don't even know about.
Who knows?
Funding these things.
I mean, if only we need more whistleblowers, and we need whistleblower protection so that people that know these things are in those rooms having those conversations, hearing like there's a lot of good people inside of these corrupt organizations that would speak out if we had whistleblower protections. And so when we look at how our government treated someone like Julian Assange or Edward Snowden,
I was going to say Snowden's
like oh my gosh, like what a crime against our country to treat them that way.
I always think that like if you remove our country out of it and you were to ask somebody like, hey, imagine somebody came forth and said Putin is doing, or any leader that we consider to be today's boogeyman, right, that we don't like, came out, we would be applauding, I think, that individual.
Yeah, for leaking information about the government, 100%.
Yeah. I just think that it's just because it's our guy.
Well, it's only because it's our guy right now. Like, so if we look back at George Bush and the Iraq War, everyone's hyped on exposing the corruption of the Iraq War. Now we all get it because we've got enough distance that half the public population hasn't chosen to die on that hill and be like, no, I'm on this side because Republicans are correct. It's like, yeah. But also, this whole war was based on faulty intelligence, and it was there was corruption to every level and profit taking. And so it's weird how we continually think that this one, and it's ironic I'm saying this because I've been coming out relatively in support of the current administration. So it's ironic that I'm saying this, and I get the irony, is that it's always like this one is different.
I think for me, I'm just sitting back watching a lot of everybody just losing their minds on both sides.
Yeah.
And I think you're completely correct. When you distance yourself, you get a much clearer perspective about what happened. In hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're so in the mix,
it's impossible to know in the moment because you don't have the leaks yet. You don't have the clarity yet. You don't have all the information yet. In a lot of ways, we're all just guessing at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's important to be able to admit that you were wrong. Like that is one of the traits I respect the most, especially in the public sphere, because it's so easy when you're a public figure to get locked into your perspective and not be able to change your mind. And then you kind of die on the wrong hill.
Yeah. I'm going to get an eyebrow.
Yeah, I get it.
You got a couple.
Yeah, I get
you're
it.
Trying to connect with your mustache, dude.
Oh, yeah, dog. Yeah, I'm going to have some wild old man eyebrows when I get older. I used to have a really intense unibrow, too. I don't know why, but it kind of mellowed out.
There's a girl who's a model, and she has...
Oh, you should look closely at my ears, too. I get, like, weird growers coming out of the top here. I think I recently shaved them.
I don't see any.
Cool, then it's good. I got them, like,
there's this model. You have some right here, but she's known for like large, she's a beautiful girl. She has this crazy, thick unibrow. And I only know about her because she knew this model, or I don't know if we're still friends. I don't really keep in contact with any of them anymore. But I was in New York, and this girl who was a model, haircut salon to me, she brought her friend to dinner, and it was this chick, and she's like this big fame. And she's known for her unibrow. And she was like super cool. And I asked her about it. She's like, why can't a girl just let her eyebrows be natural? Like if we're talking about being natural, and I'm saying that was an interesting thing to go against the society norms of what is natural. Like shaving your legs is a societal norm for women, but that doesn't actually have to be the norm.
Yep. I mean, I'm a big believer in do your thing, dude. But also like, there's this balance of ideas of like, do your thing, but actions have consequences. And so like, I look how I want to look, but people might not find me attractive, and that's fine. And it's like, live with you can't control them and they can't control you. And that's the beauty of America. Like, I hate to say it, but that's the beauty of American freedom of like, you just live in a world and make your choices and live your life and don't hurt anyone. Like, don't subtract from the population, whatever. Don't be evil. But you also can't control other people and change. Like, you can't change the outcomes of your actions,
Yeah.
And so as an example, like when I say what I'm going to say on my platform, that's great. But I also have to live with the backlash or the outcome or what that's going to do to me. Like, you have to, actions have consequences, and
every action has an opposite and equal reaction.
Exactly.
You make a big wave, that wave could come back to haunt you. For sure.
And we live in a real world. So, I just do my best to try to perceive the world as it is as best as I can and do what I think is right, and that's always evolving and changing.
I see these pieces of that. I have a question.
Yeah. It's like this kind of corner here is going to get tall.
That's why I'm like, I'm going to go through, do a little free cupping. So given everything you've researched, which I'm not going to get into, I think you've covered almost every topic except for Bigfoot, my knowledge. What are some topic, like what is let's just go down, let's play like 20 questions of conspiracy. What we're going to do 3 categories. A conspiracy you think is ridiculous and stupid and should just be completely case closed. We don't need to revisit it. What conspiracy do you want to be true? Because you wouldn't want it to, you want it to be true for whatever reason. And then lastly, which one do you believe to be true, regardless of what the narrative is officially saying? I'll see.
The one that I'm going to rephrase the phrasing a little bit because the one that I think is not true, but I don't think it's ridiculous. I think it's very understandable that people believe in it, and I have no problem with talking to people. And actually, I've got really close friends that believe in it. Is flat Earth.
Okay.
And And it's a multi-hour long debate.
Yeah.
But I believe that a lot of the evidence that people cite as credible evidence of why flat Earth is, and a lot of the ones that get people started on it are actually evidence that UAPs and extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence life is real.
Yeah.
And it's being misinterpreted as a cover-up of flat Earth. Because, for example, it is true that NASA puts out all kinds of fake footage. You can see that they're using wires in their footage. It is quite clear that NASA is putting out footage and claiming it's outer space or ISS footage, and it is clearly not. And that's a crazy rabbit hole to go down. Antarctica stuff, great rabbit hole to go down. Lots of truth to that. Moon landing stuff, lots of truth if you want to go down that kind. So there's a lot of stuff that people cite as flat Earth evidence that is like, yeah, something's going on. But I think it is probably a cover up of the UAP phenomenon.
Yeah.
And there's so many just like basic questions. Like I'm not a scientist, so I try not to get into like the technicals of like lasers and lines.
I've seen those videos.
But rather like think of how many people would have to be in on it. Everyone that ever gone to college to work on any kind of technology that has a GPS system. Everyone that's ever helped build a cell phone, helped build a car, right? Yeah. Not to mention if you were to fly from one point on the flat Earth map to the farthest point on the flat Earth map, the flights do not square on the flat Earth map, not to mention the sun. So there's so many elements to the flat Earth conspiracy that I totally get why people believe it, and I totally get their distrust of science at this point. I don't think it's ridiculous,
okay, so
but I think it's untrue.
But you just think it's not true.
Yes, and I think that God's creation is so much. I think it actually is a disservice to God to think that His creation would be so simple. I think that God has created something infinitely more complex.
Even with the Bible verse about the
firmament. Yeah, I've read it and I've looked into it, and I think that the Bible in no way describes, like, I think that people are getting extremely generous with their interpretations of, see, he just said it's flat. And they're ignoring, if you were to give the same level of generosity of interpretation to when we're talking about flat, there's all kinds of other places where you choose to like totally flip that generosity in a different direction in order to read it that way.
I was just curious.
Yeah. I'm also no biblical scholar, and I'm very willing to have debates and discussions about those things. So it's like, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
I want to have a flat earther come on.
Yeah, that'd be real interesting. Because you should get Flat Earth Dave. I've not debated him and I've not seen a lot of his stuff, but people are always like, yo, Flat Earth Dave, you got to debate Flat Earth Dave.
I don't want to debate. I just want to listen.
Yeah, listen, right?
Because anytime I've ever seen comments on Flat Earth, the Flat Earth person in comments goes, dude, if you do the research, you'll understand. And my argument is, well, I'm not going to do the research.
Yeah.
So I need you to tell me the most convincing thing, because I'm not going to waste my time on it.
There are good arguments, and some of them seem good, but actually if you understand, like, you can do experiments in your own time that will show why it comes off that way. And some of them are arguments that are far more complex to understand why they may not be real or not. Yeah. So it's complicated, but that one I think is not true. Okay. And I've looked into it a fair bit and thought about it a lot.
Hang on. By the way, how's this film? Much better, right?
Yeah, loving it. Yeah, cool. Yeah, lots of different styles available from this. It can be very crude, very mainstream.
Run your hands through the back, dude.
Be a little crazy.
That nice and
yeah. I think that you've probably nailed. I can't quite see from here, but a lot of the other people weren't getting this blend from here and here into the back, right? And yeah, 100%, dude. Yeah, fun. It's different, and I think it'll grow out fun too.
It'll be fun. It'll definitely get you a lot more. This haircut's more peacocky.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing wrong with peacock.
Bring it, dude. I mean, I am an influencer by profession now, whether I like it or not.
That's right. You have to see a little spot. All right. So now the next one, one that you think is true.
A conspiracy. I'm trying to think of like the most wild conspiracy that I think is true.
It could be like JFK.
I got you. I mean, there's a lot of them like JFK that are obviously true. Look into it. It's easy. But the one that is clearly true, that is very scandalous, is coming out right now on Candace Owens' channel, and it is that the president of France is married to a man that is almost 40 years older than him, that was his teacher when he was 15, is when they first got together, and she left her family to marry her 15-year-old student, and she is actually a he, and his brother it's a whole rabbit hole, and the evidence is beyond compelling. And it would take 50 seconds for the French first family to immediately debunk the rumors. And Candace Owens has repeatedly invited them to just present us with a photo of you in your early life. Present us with a single piece of documentation to refute this, please. And rather than doing that, they are sending out defamation letters that are picking on like little intricacies of like, you said that this thing happened there, not there. And so you're defaming us by saying that, rather than just being like, here's a photo of me when I was a kid.
I have not heard that.
It's crazy. I just ordered the book Becoming Brigitte, which is, so Candace is reporting on a story that was done over 8 years by a French journalist named Xavier Poussard. And he published his work in French. And this has been happening over the last several years. Multiple journalists have mysteriously died while reporting on this story in France. And Candace found Xavier's work and then picked it up, contacted him, and is now translating it in to the English speaking audience and blowing it up. And she is about to take down the leadership of the French regime, which is and to be clear, it's no problem with the trans person being in charge of the country. The problem is with a trans person pretending they're not trans, marrying their student, and then running a country with him as a figurehead for, how it's a whole scandal. And it opens up all kinds of questions about just what kind of secrets are the most powerful people in the world keeping from.
Yes, that's new to me.
It's crazy.
I have not heard that. I think I stick probably a bit more pedestrian.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild one.
That would be wild. All right. And then what's the one that you
really want to be true?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. The conspiracy theory that I really want to be true is ancient civilizations, pre-Diluvian conspiracy theories about an ancient civilization of like pre-Great Flood, pre-asteroid comet impact, the Younger Dryas hypotheses, the Graham Hancock theories. And to be clear, I think that they are true. And I think we have lots of evidence to support it, but I desperately want it to be true because it is just so fascinating and it recolors all of the history of religion, because all of religion traces back through those ancient, it's all borrowed from what came before. It's all writings of the same pre-Diluvian stories of these ancient gods that were beings that lived longer than normal humans.
It's like sort of the Gilgamesh.
Oh yeah, but even beyond that, I'm talking about like the creation myths of the Egyptians and the Sumerians and the Babylonians and the Mayans, and they all share the same themes.
Giants,
which are giants and very long-lived, like hundreds of years of lifespan.
Yeah.
Technologies or superpowers that like might have explained how they built all those megalithic stone structures. Yeah. And I'm actually scheming on writing a fiction book that's like a sci-fi fantasy book that is about those conspiracy theories. But it is like the modern, it's like in a way where you wouldn't be able to disprove it based upon what we have in our world today to look at as evidence.
Yeah.
And so it's like somewhere in the magical reel of like, it's the story of what could have happened before the Great Flood.
Yeah.
And we would wind up in the same world we have today. And we wouldn't know the difference between whether it was real or not, because there's just a certain element of history that is just so we pretend like we know more than we do. We don't have a single full skeleton of a dinosaur. Like the amount of archaeological evidence we have of ancient civilizations is minuscule compared to what we sort of present as conclusions from that evidence.
Yeah.
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with drawing conclusions, but I think that it gets lost in translation in the game of telephone from the experts actually looking at the primary sources down to the children learning about it. We pretend like we know everything, and really like we used to think that you could feel the shape of your head and that would tell you whether you're mentally insane. Like there's just all kinds of assumptions built in.
Bloodlettings.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. So
yeah.
This is exactly what I was going for, bro. It's like a whole new look. I love it. It's so fun. Thanks, man.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was just curious because you live in that world far more than I do. I'm like the weekend warrior.
Yep.
I have my set things that I would love to be true, that I think are true, and then there's the ones that I think are just like, I'm not going to even give it any air or oxygen for sure.
A lot of them just take too much time to even get anywhere with. So it's like,
Yeah. And I sometimes I think my answer is never on 100% like one way or the other.
Oh, it's always in percentages of truth.
Exactly that. I think like somebody gave me an example about did we go to the moon?
Yeah.
And I said, well, let's look at the time. There was a lot of propaganda. We're in a space race with Russia. It wouldn't surprise me if we had built a studio and filmed something to show that we did that.
Yep.
There was a CIA studio in the Hollywood Hills.
Yep.
Jared Leto of 30 Seconds to Mars, he owns that. That's his property.
Yep. I went and visited when I was there.
Yeah, he lives in a former CIA property, right?
Yep.
They had studios and stuff. So like we know that those things existed. Like it wouldn't surprise me if we did that. In the event that we never made it to the moon, we could still say we did. Like I'm under the belief, my thing that like, you know, I don't know. I think it is like, this is where I live in this world is, I think the footage we saw was fake.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did go to the moon.
Interesting.
Like that's where, and I think they did that because they just said like, the plan is we're showing this regardless if we get there. And if we don't get there, we come up with a lie that they died on the way back from the moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was that's what I think may have happened. But then there's like a bunch of other things like, I don't know, like
people speculate that they found an alien base up there, or there was like technology up there,
or
or
thing with Antarctica.
Exactly. Whole bunch of questions about Antarctica.
So what's really cool, I thought was neat, is I was teaching a haircutting class in the suburbs of Detroit. And so I went to the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn. Have you been?
No, but I'm curious where this story goes.
They have planes of Admiral Byrd in his Antarctica trips.
Yep.
They have the chair that Lincoln was shot in. They have a lot of weird shit. I've not been to DC, so I have not been to the Smithsonian or anything like that. But I imagine that this is what the Smithsonian is like. But it was really.
Oh,
really
I would love to go to the Smithsonian's basement where they keep all the secret stuff.
You mean if I'm the Giants?
Yeah, dog.
Yeah,
dog. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. I'm playing a little dumb here on this, but I know most of what you've talked about. The one about Frank's was new to me. But yeah, Matt, thank you for shooting the shit and let me give you a fun little.
Dude, I appreciate it, man.
Like a little throwback soccer cut. And it'll go good with your running. And next time you're in Austin, man, don't be a stranger. This has been fun. It's fun to talk to people and not feel judged or have anybody going like, I can't believe you said.
Yeah, right. Let's legalize fun again. Like, let's just have some fun, guys. It's important to just connect with people.
Yeah.
Because talk to people, have fun. Like, you don't need to agree with everyone. You can just talk and just shoot the shit.
That's what I'm saying.
Thanks, man.
So thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Later.